Greetings and welcome to Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation. To our members, friends, and everyone joining us in our virtual congregation on YouTube today.
Hello, I'm the Reverend Robin Landerman Zucker, minister of this congregation, and I will be hosting our virtual recorded worship today, August 23rd, 2020, with worship associate Pia Dreisen-Nittel and with music from Rumi Wood and Rebecca Prisnick. My sermon today is entitled Happyish, the Upside of Negative Emotions. Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation is spiritually open and intentionally inclusive. Whoever you are and whomever you love, you are always welcome here. Our members and friends bring many interests, theologies, and viewpoints to our door, and here we trust you will find a common desire for meaningful community and spiritual growth, and for relevant religious exploration in a framework with very flexible borders. Membership in this congregation is open to anyone who chooses to walk with us in the spirit of love, the search for truth, and the pursuit of justice. As I light the chalice, the symbol of our free faith, please light your own chalice or candle at home as we recite the unison words you see on your screen. We light this chalice with a flame that draws us together. With this flame, we cut through the darkness of isolation and are warmed by the fires of our inner connection. The mission and covenant of Beacon express our values and our vision of ourselves as a gathered community in the world. Please say the mission and covenant with me that you see on your screen. The mission of Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation is to be a welcoming community that embraces diverse thought and belief and builds a just, peaceful, and compassionate world. Love is the spirit of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in kindness. Thus do we covenant. And now Pia has some responsive opening words for us. And the congregational response, "We open our hearts with love," will appear on your screen.
Open Our Hearts with Love by Naomi King. When the world's violence shatters the joy of the moment, we pause and reach out for the hands that remain. We open our hearts with love. When sadness rises as a monster from the deep and drags down one of our own, our answer is that joy can be found, and we open our hearts with love. When hatred and anger, rage and fire and suffering, we bend to pick up the wounded, to bind up ourselves, and we open our hearts with love. When fear whispers, build more gates, add more locks, the blessed are those who defend themselves. We rock those fears to sleep and let them rest as we open our hearts with love. People will do unspeakably cruel and horrible things. We know that this fact. We live and die this daily all around the world in every community and every wasteland. But we know the answer is found only with one action, and so we open our hearts with love. Hatred never ceases but hatred, but by love alone can be healed. This is the truth we affirm. We live with courage and with the wider and wider circle of that force that bends our lives to ones of mercy, justice, and compassion. We open our hearts with love. It's the truth. Just by being born, you are loved. There is something within you and every person that can be loved. We open our hearts with love.
Please join me in singing When I Am Frightened. When I am frightened, will you reassure me? When I'm uncertain, will you hold my hand? Will you be strong for me? Sing to me quietly. Will you share some of your stories with me? If you will show me compassion, then I may learn to care as you do. Then I may learn to care. When I am angry, will you still embrace me? When I am thoughtless, will you understand? Will you believe in me? Stand by me willingly. Will you share some of your questions with me? If you will show me acceptance, then I may learn to give as you do. Then I may learn to give. When I am troubled, will you listen to me? When I am lonely, will you be my friend? Will you be there for me? Comfort me tenderly. Will you share some of your feelings with me? If you will show me commitment, then I may learn to love as you do. Then I may learn to love.
Now is the time in our service when congregants are invited to share personal joy or sorrow in the supportive fellowship of this community. I haven't received any specific joys or sorrows this week, but of course there are many that we share, many that we can hold in our hearts. For the people of California who are dealing with some very dangerous, relentless wildfires, this stone is for you. I drop the stones into a bowl of water to symbolize the ripples that go through the water when you drop a stone into them, and that what affects one of us affects all of us. This is a stone for everyone in the world who continues to live their lives, our lives, under the strain of the COVID-19 pandemic. May we stay safe and well, and may we care about the well-being of others by taking precautions to help them stay well. For everyone affected, caregivers, loved ones, each of us, may we be strong, may we endure this for us. For those who put on their masks and their t-shirts and make their protest signs and send postcards and make phone calls and continue to show up as social justice warriors, voting rights warriors, Black Lives Matter warriors, this stone is for you. For all of the joys and sorrows that remain unspoken because they are either too tender or too private to share. Let us remember that everyone is fighting their own private battle, particularly during these challenging times. So may we be kind, compassionate, flexible, and forgiving with one another. I invite you now into that quiet place where we do intentional breathing and see if we can create spaciousness inside ourselves. So I invite you to close your eyes, put your feet on the floor, uncross your arms, put down anything you might be holding, and just breathe. Intentionally breathe. 4 beats in through your nose, slowly, and then 5 or 6 beats out through your mouth slowly in a steady stream, feeling how much spaciousness you can create inside of yourself, starting at the top of the crown of your head and moving down your body to your feet. Sometimes intentional breathing really opens us up to feelings that are sort of there behind the breath. So today we are talking about that, about some of the shadow emotions that perhaps we put aside in order to seem or look happy to other people. So let's just breathe and be in touch with what we feel. Stop and feel, breathe, and allow. So let's breathe. Breathe in peace, breathe out love, just breathe. Don't push away or judge what you feel. Stop and feel, breathe, and allow. As you continue to breathe, I offer this spoken meditation. O mysterious presence, spirit of life, all that is sacred that moves in and around us in our joy and our sorrow, empower us to be bold participants rather than timid saints in waiting in the very difficult ordinariness of now. To exercise the authority of honesty with ourselves and others, to influence someone for justice rather than impress anyone for gain, and by grace to find treasures of joy, of friendship, of peace, of mourning, of truth, hidden in the field of the daily we are given to plow. Blessed be. Let us be silent together and continue our intentional breathing. Blessed be.
The reading is called The Mayan Sadness. It's an ancient Mayan tale. One day, the animals came to a Maya man and said, "We do not want to see you sad. Ask for what you want, and you shall have it." The Maya man said, "I want to be happy." The barn owl replied, "Who knows what is happiness? Ask us more human things." "Well," said the man, "I want to have good eyesight." The vulture said, "You have mine." "I want to be strong." The jaguar said, "You will be strong like me." "I want to walk without getting tired." The deer said, "I'll give you my legs." "I want to predict when the rains will come." The nightingale said, "I'll let you know with my song." "I want to be smart." The fox said, "I'll teach you how." "I want to climb trees." The squirrel said, "I'll give you my nails." "I want to know the medicinal plants." The serpent said, "That's up to me, because I know all the plants. I will mark them out in the field." And hearing this, the Maya man went away. Then the barn owl said to the animals, "Man now knows more things and can do more things, but he will always be sad. The only way to know happiness is to learn how to be sad."
Rolls and flows of angel hair and ice cream castles in the air and feathered canyons everywhere. I've looked
My sermon today is entitled Happyish, the upside of negative emotions. Poor Prince George of Cambridge was grumpy. His adorable mug crinkled into a sad pout. The toddler, bedecked in red shorts and a little pin-tuck shirt, he was being asked to wave to hordes of cackling strangers, walk alongside his father, Prince William, dutifully, and smile through it all. But he was grumpy, not poised, ended up being carried, and the press couldn't get enough of it. Comments from the trolls poured in. What does he have to be grumpy about? He's a prince, for criminy sake. Did I mention already that he was 2 at the time? And have you noticed that he is a human being, not a commemorative doll? Even so, we are gobsmacked that he might exhibit a negative emotion. Whatever could be wrong? We want a happy Prince George. Give us the happy boy. And then perhaps you're familiar with the internet sensation known as Grumpy Cat. Yes, this makes more sense than Grumpy Dog, for sure. Well, this is Grumpy Cat, and it says, I had fun once. It was awful. So as you may know, Grumpy Cat is a real live cat, as I just showed you, that genuinely looks grumpy all the time. It's quite amusing, and his memes like that one pop up everywhere. And we don't seem to mind Grumpy Cat as much as we minded grumpy little Prince George. George's emotional spectrum takes us by surprise in our photoshopped, selfie-obsessed popular culture. Closer to home, maybe there's a couple we know who is getting divorced or experiencing a rough patch, and we might be inclined to say, really? Them? They always look so happy on Facebook and all those vacation photos and at those barbecues with their shiny children. The dissonance between those cheery, jerry-rigged images and the glummer reality can be startling and thought-provoking, even now, when many of us are living in a grayer space and admitting to living in a grayer space, and yet it persists. Think of how often we respond to the query, how are you, or how goes it, with a quick chirpy, great, or everything's good, or just fine and dandy, or swell, or never better. I had a neighbor in Concord, Massachusetts, whom I would encounter on my daily walks, and her reply was a realistic, but still not committal, not bad, not bad. She didn't say it was good, she didn't say it was awful. She said, not bad, not bad. Yes, of course, I get the down and the dirty and the bad news from people too. As a minister, I am here to listen to true, unvarnished answers to that question, how are you? But interestingly, over the course of my 20-year ministry, folks have admitted that they did not want me to know of their suffering because I might think less of them. They somehow thought they needed to impress me with their mastery of the human existence, even now, during a pandemic. And this is 100% inaccurate. I'm preaching all the time about how we are a work in progress, made up of joy and sorrow, the positive and the negative, the good, the bad, and the ugly, all woven together. But I understand this fear and this tendency. If asked, many people will tell you that they'd prefer to be in the company of happy people. But studies suggest that this is only true if they are also happy. For most of us, our deeper yearning is to be able to express the full range of emotions that make us human without censure, judgment, or rejection, and to find that expression mirrored in the authenticity of others, especially our nearest and dearest. This requires us first to not reject the so-called negative emotions in ourselves when they arise, even if this feels like a revolutionary act that cuts against the grain of the don't worry, be happy culture, determined to make us smile until it hurts, even when we are hurting or anxious. In fact, we force faux happiness so much in our culture that it actually breeds unhappiness. In Man's Search for Meaning, Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl tells us, our current mental hygiene philosophy stresses the idea that people ought to be happy, that unhappiness is a symptom of maladjustment. We're afraid of sadness, even as it serves a purpose in helping human beings to survive. We get our ideas about happiness from many corners, including religion. In a provocative piece for Medium entitled My Spiritual Aversion to Having a Bad Day, John Headley recalls a pastor telling him that if he had a bad day, he must not be much of a believer or be very close to Jesus or to God. It seemed like I was always surrounded by happy people, he tells us, because being happy was synonymous with being faithful. Negative emotions were the sign of an attack from the devil. When Headley left evangelical Christianity for Buddhist practice, he was relieved to find a belief system that began with the central notion that suffering arises from our constant attempt to be rid of it. He writes, I want an uncensored, unsanitized faith where being fully human is celebrated. I want a spirituality that doesn't get offended when I am sad. And hopefully, Unitarian Universalism has been that for you, or could be that for you. Now, on the flip side, some of us might be squirmy about appearing too content. Psychologist Gretchen Rubin relates the most pernicious myth about happiness that holds, in a world full of suffering, you can only be happy if you're callous and self-centered. Another joy stomper suggests that happy people become wrapped up in their own pleasure. They're complacent and uninterested in the world. But this is wrong. Studies show that quite to the contrary, happier people are more likely to help other people. They're more interested in social problems, they do more volunteer work, and they contribute more to the causes they care about, the institutions they care about, and to charity. They're less preoccupied with their personal problems too. And by contrast, less happy people are more apt to be defensive, isolated, and self-absorbed. And unfortunately, their negative moods can be contagious. Technical name, emotional contagion, something I think we're experiencing a little bit of right now, understandably. Just as eating your dinner doesn't help starving children in India, being blue yourself doesn't necessarily help unhappy people become happier. It's surprisingly complicated how our feelings affect others and how it too can become a pandemic. As we're well aware, depression is a real thing, a serious thing, a gripping, depleting thing. But this morning, we're not taking our train of thought all the way to that station. Rather, we've landed in that more amorphous happy land where sadness is a pariah, along with anger, fear, and their ilk. A curated kingdom that can magnify a sense of failure and fakery. The thing is, it's okay to not be okay. And there has never been a better time to ditch this toxic positivity that's rooted in our American culture. And being able to look on the bright side at will can also be a sign of privilege that not everyone shares. It's okay to not be okay and to be optimistic about the future. I'd like to pay homage actually to the Disney Pixar gods for producing the film Inside Out as a perfect vehicle for my message today. You may have seen it when it was released some years back, or you've seen it on a streaming service like Disney Plus. It's really worth a viewing, and you're going to see a clip that's the climactic scene from this movie at the end of this service today. I think it's safe to say that this remarkable, unique, and dazzling animated film examines the importance of sadness in a way that's never been done before on screen, and maybe has never been done before at all, particularly for something that seems to be meant for children, but is really a fairly mature concept in this movie. Now, spoiler alert, as Lynn Cinnamon summarizes in her blog, in the film, 11-year-old Riley suddenly finds her entire personality and emotional makeup in peril after her parents move them from Minnesota to San Francisco. Inside her resides the representation of 5 of the 6 universal emotions that humans express with their face. Joy, who has been the benevolent ruler of Riley's young life, strives to stay in control without too much interfering when fear, anger, and disgust try to keep Riley safe in this new city. She finds it hard, though, to find any potential usefulness in the despondent sadness. Riley has had her world literally shaken to the core, but her stressed out parents do not ask her how she's doing or tell her it's okay to be sad about her losses. Instead, they praise her for still being their happy girl. This feedback motivates Joy to go into overdrive mode in her attempt to totally suppress sadness, who at this point is bubbling over with the blues. When sadness can't control her compulsion to touch memories, an action that imbues them with her blue color, she exasperatedly tells Joy she's having a breakdown. Instead of trying to listen and understand the character, Sadness, an annoyed Joy responds with false positivity and manipulation. Sadness is a threat to a happy life, she thinks. Sadness, she believes, will destroy all the glittering wonder that has been built inside of Riley. This eye-popping film also beautifully shows how current emotions can color our memories. Sadness wanted to touch everything because that's how Riley was really feeling. This made Joy freak out because she thought those memories would forever be cast in blue. She also believed that that would be an impenetrable stain. And this struggle between joy and sadness in the film illustrates part of why we can hurt so badly inside. The eventual harmony and understanding between joy and sadness in the story illustrates how we can heal, which is not by eliminating sadness or squashing joy, but by letting them both live within us, cohabitate. We can heal by letting them join hands and color our moments together, because that's what they are going to do anyway. For a fairly large chunk of this animated tour de force, Riley is left to navigate her new world with only fear, anger, and disgust at the helm. Joy and sadness have been sucked through a tube in a maze of long-term memory. As these negative emotions run amok by themselves, Riley's very personality starts to disintegrate. She needs the influence of this range of emotions to be a whole and functional human being. Yet one thing I really admire about this film is it doesn't sideline these negative emotions, even if they're bit players compared to joy and sadness. The emotional bad guys are the canaries in the coal mine and the Jiminy Crickets on our shoulders. They keep us real too. In an article for Psychology Today, Matthew Houston suggests that negative emotions do us a great favor by saving us from ourselves. They're signals urging us to change what we're doing, and they're actually necessary for feeling good. We have the wrong idea about emotions, he tells us. They're very rational. They are tools carved by eons of human experience to direct us where we need to go. And while some negative emotions, such as fear, encourage us to avoid situations. Anger typically stimulates approach. Well-directed and modulated, anger can motivate us. It can fuel the progress of social justice. Fear, well, the Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron, as I've said in some other sermons, she advises us to become intimate with our fear, to get to know it, because we need the fear impulse inside of us to keep us out of harm's way. But we don't want it to keep us from living. Anxiety is a different kind of animal. When we're afraid but can't directly address the threat, that fear becomes anxiety. Fear or anxiety about how we are living our lives, about how each of us will fare, how the country will fare, how the world will fare as we move through the COVID pandemic and other pressures we're facing on a global scale. As we slog through this chaotic time, social unrest, personal pressures, they can actually point the way for us to be really true to ourselves. Make sure that our actions align with our deepest values. Each of these negative emotions, along with disgust, regret, embarrassment, envy, jealousy, frustration, and boredom, you feel those things, right? Well, that's what being a human being is all about. All those things can also serve as a beacon, shepherding us back to our full human authenticity without taking away our desire to be happy. And in case you didn't hear it a couple times already, not being okay is totally acceptable, and it is completely understandable in this moment in time. And now we've traveled full circle back to this question of authentic happiness. Many years ago, when I was accumulating more coaching and counseling skills, I enrolled in a 23-week distance learning course on positive psychology with Dr. Martin Seligman, who's the acknowledged sort of papa of the genre. Now, since then, his ideas have spawned master level diplomas and a plethora of books and scads of blogs, spewing inspiration on the internet and sold out courses at places like Kripalu and Esalen and Omega with snappy little names like Finding Your Radiant Joy and The Science and Spirit of Happy. There is a happiness industry out there, and social media has only cranked it up to a higher level. And in some cases, it actually promotes the toxic positivity I was talking about earlier. Clearly, many people, us, generally want to be happier, or at least maintain whatever state of passing grade happiness we currently possess. Yet Dr. Seligman has made it very clear from the start that authentic happiness, his term, is not perpetual joy or some unconditional bliss bestowed by the universe. He worked hard for his authentic happiness, and his paradigm goes so much deeper, suggesting that an authentically happy life is one woven through with broad and well-developed fulfillment, crafted out of the material of a fully human life. And he asks us to blend 3 elements in our lives to achieve this: pleasure, engagement, and meaning. So this requires us to grapple with the darker corners, not just sit on the sunny window seat. Like Dr. Seligman, I am all for joy, and I'm even a bigger booster of the pursuit of a full spectrum humanity, a place where sadness touches us with blue and makes us more tender, more grounded, more resilient, and surprisingly, more whole, by allowing us to feel our brokenness too, a place where meaning making is achieved partially by helping others and sharing top billing with them rather than just pleasing ourselves. In your own life, how might you balance personal pleasure, engagement in authentic relationships, and meaning making in the broader world in order to craft a fulfilling life for yourself, even in these less than optimal, very limited circumstances we're in. You might consider incorporating the 5-3-1 rule into your daily life to increase a sense of well-being and simple happiness. That's 5 minutes of meditation, writing down 3 good things that are a source of gratitude, and doing at least 1 random act of kindness or something that touches the broader world. Maybe something having to do with voting or social justice or something in the community. Will you try it even in this zoomed up world we're living in? If you do, please let me know how it touched, supported, or changed you. I once read, you have to decide, are you Tigger or are you Eeyore, from the classic Winnie the Pooh stories? And it's a useful question for deciding whether you'll begin your pursuit of happyishness from a standpoint of optimism or pessimism. Unitarian Universalism is an inherently optimistic religion. So I hope you will choose optimism as your starting point. But even so, the world needs its share of Eeyores, solemn, highly sensitive, realistic, pensive creatures. Moreover, Eeyore exists in every one of us, and he balances out that annoyingly hyperactive, perpetually chirpy Tigger. Unless we are mugging for Facebook or goofing on TikTok, none of us is 100% Tigger or Eeyore. We aren't completely joy, and we aren't completely sadness from the Inside Out movie. We are both and so much more. Khalil Gibran tells us in The Prophet, your joy is your sorrow unmasked, and the self-same well which your laughter rises from oftentimes was filled with your tears. And how else can it be? The deeper the sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain. The modern poet Galway Kinnell, he puts a more contemporary spin on this idea. One can imagine that little Prince George has already given it a go on his grumpier days. Crying only a little bit is no use, Kinnell explains. You must cry until your pillow is wet. Then you can get up and laugh. Then you can jump in the shower and splash, splash, splash. Then you can throw open the window and ha-ha, ha-ha. And if anyone says, hey, what's going on up there? Ha-ha, sing back. Happiness was hiding in my last tear. I wept it. So may it be through for us, through all the blue-tinged times of our fully human lives. Blessed be, blessed we, and amen.
Please join me in singing Winds Be Still. Winds be still, storm clouds pass and silence come. Peace grace this time with harmony. Fly, bird of hope, and shine, light of love, and in calm let all find tranquility. Bird, fly high. shine bright and true, so we may join our songs in new sounds that become full symphony.
The spirit of generosity and gratitude flows through Beacon. Whether we're here in our sanctuary or we're gathered in the virtual sanctuary of YouTube, we take an offering each week to support the work of Beacon and our community partners. You can go to our website, beaconuu.com, and find the donate button on our homepage and make a secure donation through the Venko application. Or you can send us a check here at our Flagstaff address, 510 North LaRue Street, Flagstaff, Arizona, 86001. Either way, we greatly appreciate your support, especially during this very challenging time. And finally, let us imagine coming together and holding hands in a circle as we typically do when we gather on site here at Beacon. Let us hold imaginary hands and open our hearts and feel the sense that we are Beacon, always connected. Please reach out to me for a porch visit or a phone call or a Zoom meetup. I am here, as are many members of this congregation. As we imagine ourselves holding hands and connected, please say the benediction with me that you see on your screen. Go out into the world in peace. Have courage. Hold on to what is good. Return to no person evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Honor all beings. May you stay well and be safe. Blessed be, blessed we, and amen.
Wait, stop! I want to get off! Oh, thank you. You will. Your teacher hasn't even seen Riley all day. What was she wearing last night? You even remember what... Riley! Oh, we were worried sick. Where have you been? It's so late. I know you don't want me to, but I miss home. I miss Minnesota. You need me to be happy. But through all my old friends and my hockey team, I want to go home. Please don't be mad. No, sweetie.
I'm not mad. You know what? I miss Minnesota too. I miss the woods and we took hikes.
In the backyard where you used to play.
Spring Lake, where you learned to skate. Come